All right, we're jumping right into it. This is the second video I'm recording today. Joining me as always is CA Conservative. Welcome back.
Hello.
So a lot has happened, obviously, particularly in the past week. Um, and if you saw today, I actually uploaded a video today with my friend Sarah, talking about probably the elephant in the room,
Which one?
war.
There's a couple of them, and that is, of course, the biggest.
Yeah. Um, I don't know if you're anything like me, then the news has been very upsetting this week.
Tragedies don't tend to stop, do they?
Yeah. As I was saying, like, I don't usually cry. I cried last week.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So what are you and I in agreement that what has to happen is the eradication of Hamas?
Well, of course.
Yeah. What do you I wanted to ask you, what do you think about the criticism that Netanyahu prioritized the settlements over protecting the border with Gaza, and then basically they were too underdefended and this was allowed to happen?
I mean, I would have made the same deployment decisions that they did. I would have guessed that the West Bank would have been a much more severe problem than the Strip would be, and that the barrier could not be breached. Um,
They
he was
breached it with
wrong.
bulldozers.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
that would have been the assumption I would have made. All this talk of, did they have any intelligence? Was there any, increase in activity on the other side? Is all in hindsight. Um, so
Yeah.
what
Honestly, if
they're all trying to blame everybody else between the intelligence chiefs, the government.
right.
Um, is he responsible? Only because he's in charge.
Right. And
Um,
I don't know what you think about this, but like I think this is the beginning of the end of Netanyahu.
oh, he's done. He's got to go.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
people have compared like the intelligence failure to the Yom Kippur War. This was worse than that.
I would say they're actually fairly similar. I would say that this is much more sort of a Falklands style failure,
Yeah,
um, in that the government actively made the decision to decrease the defenses there, but
right.
because they won, nobody remembers that.
You've probably seen the stat thrown around that on the first day of the war, the death toll on the first day, in terms of the number of Jews killed, is the highest number of Jews killed on a single day since the Holocaust.
I believe it.
Yeah. I think the last number I saw, the total number of dead on the Israeli side is 1,300.
I think I've seen it even higher than that. Um, the atrocities are beyond unspeakable.
Yeah. Do you think that we're looking at a possible second front in the north?
Well, I would have said they're not that stupid, but I would say they're not stupid enough to do this. So
Well,
we're
I
not
thought the
dealing
same
with
thing about
rational actors here.
yeah, I thought the same thing about Hamas. When I first heard the news of the conflict, I was like, even they can't be that stupid.
Unfortunately, terrorists don't operate on the same wavelength as the rest of us. They
Yeah,
don't. They don't really care about the same things. Um, Only the people who defend this think that they're reasonable actors, and of course they're not.
right. But I
But as
mean,
for the
like,
question of the North, though, I'd be astonished if they decided to jump in full, aside from the random and or sort of missile strikes and all that. I mean, it's suicide to jump in. They're not surviving this if they do. Assad won't survive.
right. But I mean, in terms of Hezbollah, like Hamas has like street lamps made out of like rockets made out of street lamps. What I'm trying to say is the rockets that Hamas uses are made out of street lamps compared to what Hezbollah has.
They are, but ultimately they're about the same so far as the difficulty to intercept them. And there are vastly more to intercept than the Israelis can realistically do. The only possible thing would be to attack the launch sites, but given they've failed to do that thus far in the Strip, they obviously don't have the capability to do that over a much larger area.
I actually, I mean, but back to the topic of like Hamas's brutality, from what I've read, the last time we saw a group as brutal and as cruel as Hamas, I believe you have to go all the way back to the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia.
Mm, I'm not even sure I would. They killed a lot of people, but I mean, I would go back to like whatever the Croatian
Right. But
secret
the
police were during the war. Even the
right.
Nazis considered them to be too brutal.
Wow. Yeah, but like because like the Khmer Rouge, I believe they also killed babies.
They probably did. I was unaware of. I honestly couldn't tell you their record on the torture or
Right.
the having fun bit of it. Um,
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
not my area of expertise.
apparently even ISIS didn't stoop that low.
Well, that's just for lack of opportunity.
Yeah.
They would have, and probably did, if they could have.
Yeah.
But
I
this, I
mean,
mean, it's the thing. Honestly, the thing that's gotten me was not really what they did, but how many in the West are perfectly happy to defend behavior like this
yeah,
with
no,
zero compunction about anything, quite frankly.
yeah, the news from like college campus across college campus, a student government across from student government to student government. You know that for all the talk about the anti-Semitism in on college campuses in the United States, it's worse in Canada. And it's worse because in Canada, you are required to be a member of a student union that is passing resolutions that are targeting you.
Well, I think the thing, aside from being mildly surprised that things are this bad, the thing that's been, I won't say fun to watch, but kind of in the same vein as that, is just that for the first time, I would say in maybe the past 20 years, these people are actually struggling to get away with expressing these kind of things.
Yeah,
Losing job offers, having the clubs openly attacked. These
yeah,
people
that
have never been challenged on the obscene things that they do, and they actually have to answer for this stuff now.
yeah, and I mean, for I mean, people are now seeing firsthand like what Hamas is doing and what they're really all about, and yeah, obviously there's no you know it's becoming harder and harder to defend behavior like that, and so
Well, it's
yeah,
becoming harder to get away with defend. I mean, they're perfectly happy to defend this type of thing. I think we've proven that a couple of times over by now, but it sounds way worse. I mean, for a long time, Palestinian advocates have been able to get away with this sort of, oh, we don't really mean all this, and you know, we just want to peacefully coexist. And obviously, that's nonsense. It's been nonsense for a long time, but we've finally, I think, gotten the best proof possible that these people are, for all intents and purposes, Nazis and should be treated as such.
yeah, and I mean, you would have thought that maybe a lot of these people, having seen, what Hamas is about, they might have given them some pause about the cause that they believe in. But no, I mean, I will just say this, among Jewish leftists, I think there's been a real shift.
Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of comments to that respect, um, because it's fairly, I mean, the other, my, I don't think, and I would tend to agree with those who say we shouldn't care more about their people than they do. Um, but the whole cause of these people is dead.
Yeah.
They've added 500 years to the timeline to create a second state, to where the most likely option is the deaths of a lot of people.
Yeah. And one thing that I've been, struggling with, like the thing that honestly makes me angry is that we've poured in like what millions and millions of dollars that into Gaza that was meant to like build roads, like build build a water sewer system, build an electric grid, build like a seaport, build an airport. None of that has happened.
Almost
Um,
definitely. I mean, it isn't even, interesting. No, I mean, I think nothing shows that better than the video of themselves proudly ripping up the EU funded water pipes to build, weapons with. The world has tolerated it and has paid off this bunch for decades, including the current government has done the same,
yeah,
in Israel, on the idea that they did, again, that they didn't really believe what they said, that, you know, they were pure, or what's the line about like economic radicals or something like that? No,
yeah,
no. These are terrible people who all need to be dealt with in the fastest manner possible. And, I mean, as for, there's been a lot of nonsense about, we can't blame civilians. But that's nonsense. These people openly voted for Hamas. They openly support them, you know, and
and
it's enough to be able to say that they are responsible.
yeah, and polls show that if the Palestinians were actually able to hold an election, Hamas would gain control of the West Bank.
Well, they did. It was only through an ignoring of the past election that they didn't.
Yeah,
Um, there's nothing. I mean, not that the rest of their choices are particularly good. But this whole, this sort of realist theory about why these groups exist is nonsense.
yeah,
They actually do, in fact, hate everybody, specifically Jews, as much as they say. Um, they being, I mean, as we've said, not just them, but all of their friends throughout the West. I mean, like Students for Justice in Palestine is a group that openly needs to be banned.
yeah.
There's
In
no
countries
way
where
that
that's
law.
in countries where that's constitutional, yeah,
Well, not, but even here, you're not allowed to finance terrorism. There is no way this bunch doesn't have a ton of shady connections to Hamas and friends. Um,
yeah. In
you know,
just the statements that have been put out since the conflict, I think Canada has more than enough legal basis to ban Students for Justice in Palestine as a group that's pro genocide.
well, because they are. Of course, the thing that I think, and I can't remember who said this, but that has been kind of revealing is how many, specifically on the center left, are learning just how terrible their friends even further to the left are. You
Oh,
know,
for sure.
in a way, in a way, in a way, and the thing that's always offended me is that, you know, we never get away with having, friends to our right who are, either fascist or, whatever the particular problem may be, but the left gets away with that for free. And I think this is the first time that some have realized that the red-brown alliance is a problem that cannot just be easily ignored. And that,
Yeah,
they actually have to think about these things because this problem ain't going away.
yeah, for sure. Um, by the way, as a bit of a fun news story, you know that it turns out that Marjorie Taylor Greene was right. Israel does have Jewish space lasers.
Oh, I heard the Iron Beam had been successfully deployed,
Yeah,
which will be very useful, but I still don't think its range is going to be all that helpful.
you don't think so?
Just got an email I gotta respond to later. Um, I mean, ultimately, the thing that's been very interesting is just how little the Israelis seem to use like hovering drones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. Um, if it's a question of they just don't need them, if they don't have them, if they think they're too easy to shoot down, because they would be very well suited to a lot of these tasks, and especially at a time at which the rules of engagement obviously permit everything for all intents and purposes,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
no. Um, there was a really good argument that on that topic that not only does international law permit an overwhelming response by Israel, it even requires it, you know. It's not prohibited by the Geneva Conventions, and it's probably required by the Convention on the Prevention of Genocide.
I would tend to agree with that. I don't think there's no reason that they should stop, you know, or avoid going as far as possible. The whole debate over what the future of the strip should be, I think, is designed to slow down such an operation.
Mhm.
Who cares? Quite honestly, there's there's no reason. What the hell? Anyway, there's no reason why the rest of us should really care. Um, because there's not going to be a strip left after this. I was telling a friend of mine I would expect the civilian deaths to go above six figures. Um, this is going to be something we haven't seen in a very long time, if ever.
Wow. I mean, something like on the scale of what happened in Nagorno-Karabakh.
Oh, not even that's not even remotely compared. Well, I guess technically in the 90s you could be forgiven for comparing them, but the sort of sustained urban warfare in an entirely surrounded place is something that in modern times I don't think has a useful parallel,
Hmm. Yeah,
you
I mean,
know.
but a lot of that is by design. The way Hamas sets up the Gaza Strip, it's basically meant to maximize civilian casualties.
Oh yeah, they're entirely responsible for what's coming from the bombing of evacuation convoys, from the setting up of checkpoints. They share all of the blame for what's about to happen.
Yeah,
But that doesn't make it any easier, you know.
yeah, for sure. It's yeah, I mean, yeah, the photos are like rough to watch. It's like and it's I agree something has to be done, and it kind of saddens me that Israel's kind of already ruled out another occupation because, I mean, my goodness, you cannot convince me that another occupation would be worse than what's going on right now.
Well, I mean, but there's no way to deliver an occupation.
Mm.
There's no way that Israel could ever provide a functioning administration in the Strip. The PA is going to have to be told to do it, and they're not. So
What about
there's
Egypt?
basically nobody wants to deal with this. They wanna either criticize it or just say who cares,
Yeah,
which is fine. But it's like okay. But honestly, I mean, they've just brought it on themselves. There's no way they didn't assume that this was going to come. And honestly, again, we're not dealing with normal people here. On no planet was this ever going to work.
yeah,
That, the price of everything is going to be the loss of, I mean, let's just say 2,000 Israelis, civilians, and maybe tens of thousands of troops by the time this is all done will have been worth all of this.
yeah,
Um, but I mean, as for the question you opened with, again, I'd be astonished if Iran let everything go to hell in the north.
yeah.
That,
You think?
they may be really hardcore, but they're not that reckless. And given the Israelis have already said that Assad is first on the target list, his death will implode Syria in an instant.
Yeah.
There's
Um.
no way Lebanon doesn't break into a civil war immediately. Um, I don't know how it serves, their overall ambitions.
Right. So you think Iran's going to keep the leash tight on the north?
I think they'll just do the normal resistance nonsense fire, killing a couple of Israelis here and there. As I've said, if they really want to risk it all right now, this is such a stupid time to do it. With us, they're ready to get involved as well. With, their presence in Iraq still extremely vulnerable to everybody. With, you know, all of these rumblings at home, just a full-scale war is just so strange to, I mean, especially, given that they continue to threaten Azerbaijan, it's just like, how stupid are, well, that would be a sign that they are, in fact, as crazy as they sound.
Yeah.
On no planet does any of this make sense for them to do.
One thing I was not expecting was for Turkey to be the bad guy during this time.
Well, they always are. I mean, they've been leading the convoys, not the that flotilla, I mean.
Yeah.
They've been doing stuff like this for years. Um, and you know, is it
Yeah.
surprising? No,
No.
especially with, you know, the Israelis getting pretty friendly with Cyprus and the Greeks, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Um, they see, I mean, it's not impossible to see that if this all goes to hell, Lebanon and Syria will be ripe for Turkey's taking.
Yeah, I mean, Turkey's already been taking chunks of Syria.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's all just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Everybody here has been doing such weird things for so long that it's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I guess now is as good as time as any to move on from Israel, like in terms of our conversation. Like, let's talk about elections that happened this past weekend. There was like a bunch of them.
Well, of course, and starting with the one I thought was the funniest was the one in Australia.
Yeah, that
Um,
referendum went down, right?
hard. I put in a group chat. I'm like, okay, the only question I have is if it fails by more or less than 20 points, and it failed by like 20.8 or something.
Wow.
Um, I don't know how the government messed this up so badly. I think it's kind of funny that the usual suspects blame the coalition for killing this, when if the coalition could get above 60%, like, things would be really different. They can't even get above 40, you know? This was not a super right-wing electorate, trolling everybody. This was every single state and an enormous percentage of the population, um, across the board. It ironically did show the same sort of Brexit pattern of who voted yes and no, which is kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I find the whole concept really stupid. This whole concept of having sort of a special voice, it's like, why? They just can vote.
Yeah.
If they're not electing the people they want, add more representatives. Or I mean, even what New Zealand does of having a few special seats for them, it's very apartheid-like, admittedly, but notwithstanding that, it's like, okay, what's the problem here?
Yeah. Even in Canada, we have like seats in like Northern Ontario that arguably should not exist.
Yeah, doing it with not requiring districts to be the same is a reasonable option. I
Yeah.
don't know if the Australian Constitution requires that. The boundaries there are pretty ugly, so I would imagine that there is some of that required.
Yeah. Um, I've actually heard that in in Scotland, like the islands like are guaranteed their own seat. Like the islands in the north of
Yeah.
Scotland. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Uh
then I mean the Isle of Wight was for a while too, even though I think it's due to be broken up into two this time around.
yeah.
But
Uh
it's like it's nonsense. And it's purely, I mean, I was watching the ABC um the night of when it was obviously going to fail, and it was just the most, it's been, I was in college the last time I heard white guilt at that level. And it's like, have a
yeah.
bit of self-respect, guys. If you want to improve the lives of these people, just do it. you
Yeah.
know, the government sort of needing to ask everybody else, it's like, okay.
Hmm.
Um, It's like, oh my God.
Yeah. It was yeah, I mean, there's the same sort of white guilt thing that was also like, current Prime Minister of Canada arguably has, is that sort of talk about him. You remember, I think you remember this, like 2 years ago, like multiple cities across Canada actually canceled their Canada Day celebrations because there were a few days before they discovered some undiscovered graves on the site of former residential schools.
I
And
have heard that. Didn't, the last I heard was is that there are no graves.
really, oh wow. Well,
Or that whatever they had X-ray scanned was not actual bodies, but it's just I've never been a fan of the sort of very annoying historical idea that everybody has to deal with what somebody did 100 years ago, you know,
yeah,
or even longer in the case of Australia. And it's just like, who cares? There's enough problems to deal with before we have to start digging up the graves of, 80-year-old dead kids. It's like, no, we have better things to do.
right.
You know, even the, you know, eventually we'll be rid of, like the old camp guards. It's the same thing, you know. If anybody's still alive, sure. But the people today, who cares? You know?
Yeah,
And it's all, I mean, especially in Canada, it's all of that is usually just a smokescreen to hurt, oil developments or other infrastructure projects. And it's like, there was one, I saw a particularly funny comment kind of in the other direction where it was like the native person wanting is like, okay, can I build, some apartments for my people? And it's, somebody with pink hair saying like, no, but I'm willing to, remove my own head or something. It's like, okay,
yeah,
instead of focusing on what will actually help these people, it's all just performative, self-harm basically.
yeah.
It's like,
Moving on,
okay.
yeah, moving on to New Zealand. Uh, they had the Nationals came back pounding, but I'm just realizing they're gonna need New Zealand first, aren't they?
It's 50-50.
I think with the Nationals plus Act is 61, which is exactly half.
Well, they're gonna win that extra seat. So
Oh,
if
really?
the special votes don't change the seats, they'll have enough. I mean, honestly, from what New Zealand First was saying, I don't think they're gonna be terribly difficult to work with. I mean, they got destroyed in giving everything away to the left in 2017.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they're going to be too problematic to worry about. Um,
They came back. That's the thing is
well, yeah. Let's just say
I'm
the threshold wasn't that high. I mean, I think overall, the right obviously won
yeah.
regardless. And a majority for themselves would be nice. Um,
They didn't get that.
well, as I said, if the without the special votes, they would have a majority with the seat that's up in a month.
Yeah.
Because that'll put them at 62, and I think that will be just enough. And the special votes will probably shift a seat or two to the left, but if they don't, which we've seen voting method be a very strange thing, relative to what it was in the past in a lot of places. Um, yeah, but overall it was a decent result.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Oh, so the two overhang seats. Wow.
Well, that's
No.
because the the Mori party won needed them to get to their proportional result. I've always
Right.
hated seats as a concept, um, just because
Yeah.
they make calculating things difficult. But it could have been worse. There could have been there was four overhang seats at one point in the night.
So it looks like there's a by-election coming up.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to. one of the candidates died in it, and so they just said, we'll do it later.
Oh, okay.
It's a very right-wing seat. I believe the National Party won the party vote there, and so
Oh, so they're
that
gonna
will be
have
a,
the seats.
unless the provisional votes change anything,
Okay.
which they have in the past, but again,
Yeah.
voting method be weird.
Yeah. I'm wondering, by the way, whether Jacinda Ardern really was resigning to focus on her family, or whether she really was trying to get out of Dodge.
Well, I mean, they lost their seat, so that doesn't,
Oh, her seat flipped. Wow.
I'm pretty sure it did. That's what I remember everybody saying, at least. I can check that just to be sure, but I'm reasonably certain that they outright lost her seat. Obviously, she wasn't running, but
Right. She was. Oh,
electorate
she was on the party
results.
list. She was on party list. That's, or no, no, Mount Albert, succeeded by Helen White, who is Labor.
Oh no, it looks like they lost it by 100 votes. That's unfortunate.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, a majority of 100 after she won 70% last time.
Wow.
So it was as I said, a pretty decent result. The electorate seats don't matter because the lists just come up identically as you lose them.
Yeah.
But it was still a very good result.
Oh, wait, no, it
Um,
says here, according to, oh, no, but she's been around for a while. It says that the list MP for Mount Albert is a national, but she looks like she's held the office. Um,
well, yeah. I think there was only one. There was one, I think National's deputy leader failed to win. That was probably the only disappointment I saw from that lot. But overall, they did very well.
yeah, for sure. Um, so then Louisiana, I think, was the next election. I think that's the first good election for Republicans that they've had in a while, like
Basically, that
like
was
all year.
surprising that
Yeah.
we took that without a runoff. We coalesced better than we usually do.
Yeah, and I think Republicans overall got like 65% of the vote, which
All
is,
minimum. I mean,
yeah.
and then lieutenant governor candidate won like everything.
I know what apparently he only lost New Orleans by 12 points.
Yeah, even the precinct results, it's like, okay. So Dems, apparently didn't really feel the need to vote.
Yeah, I guess that they sort of just conceded defeat there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sucks to be
This,
them.
okay, wait, okay, this is interesting. Biden, so it looks like Biden won New Orleans by 68%. And the fact that the Democrat running for lieutenant governor can only win it by 12.
That's sad. It was purely turnout. I don't think there was much persuasion going on, but they just didn't vote.
Yeah. By the way, just as on a side note, I think Biden's margin in New Orleans, I believe, is the best result for a Democrat in New Orleans, I believe, since 1940.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, so like just to give you a sense of how democratic the city is. Um, it the city didn't has last voted for a Republican. Oh yeah, voted for Republican in 1972. Yeah, of course. Basically, almost everywhere was voting for Republicans then. Um, then Poland, I believe, was the next place.
A decent result there. I was hoping the opposition would do well enough to not have to use the left to win, but
Yeah, I mean,
the incumbent government had to go. They were doing so well for so long, and then they just decided to go
yeah,
full
no, that,
crazy farmer, and that's just lost everything.
yeah, yeah, I actually that was a little bit of a surprising result to me. Maybe not to you, I guess, because you've been following it enough, but I I was because I just figured that the government was so entrenched there.
I mean, not really.
Yeah, I mean, what went wrong in Hungary went right in Poland.
Well, I mean, Hungary or Poland has always been a close place. I mean, the last presidential election, I think, was a couple of point affair, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Oh yeah,
not
for sure.
it's
Yeah.
not like it was ever, I mean, it was always going to be close.
Yeah. I always took it. I mean, my family and I, we I guess whatever we felt about the current government, we really took issue with their Holocaust policy, like the fact that they've made it illegal to teach about Poland's role in the Holocaust. It's always something we took issue with.
Well, they've always been offended by the idea that they, of course, were involved in it.
Yeah.
Um, Unnecessary price to pay for a people whose agency in their own affairs has been quite limited in the past, you know?
Right. Yeah. Okay, this to me is crazy. I'm just looking at the results from New Orleans. Jimmy Carter only won New Orleans by 13 points.
Was black turnout really low?
I don't know, because I figured this would be an area he would have dominated.
I'd have to look how demographically it was in the 80s.
Or in the 70s, yeah.
Well, no.
Um,
In what election were we talking about?
1976.
Oh,
Um, so yeah, that's a good thing to look up. Then finally, I think we had an election in Ecuador.
about the only decent result we could have gotten out of that nonsense.
Yeah, from
It's a
what it sounds
shame
like,
none of the right wing candidates advanced.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, Ecuador seems to be bucking the trend.
Not really. It's just the problems with these multi-round systems. The lockouts are really common. I mean, even in Louisiana, there was one seat that's like D50 that they almost got locked out of.
Yeah. Um, the, you mean, oh, did you say New Orleans or where did you say that happened?
I don't remember where the seat was.
That by the way, that was funny to me that Christy Smith's seat, which voted for Biden, had the choices two Republicans. That will never not be funny to me. Remember that?
No.
2020. When
Oh, and that assembly seat?
yeah,
Yeah, which we promptly lost afterwards.
yeah,
Although admittedly not by as much as we should have, so small
yeah.
victory there.
There's by the way this meme of like Mike Garcia. It's like 2050 and he's just won re-election by 300 votes.
Oh yeah, that man is unbeatable.
Oh, okay. By the way, let's talk about the race for, or not the race, but the current effort to get another U.S. speaker. I'm a Speaker of the House. What do you think is the most likely outcome right now?
I would be surprised if Jordan can get it.
Yeah, I'm
He's
actually wondering.
hated by the usual suspect, or he's hated by too many. I would vote against him.
Yeah, how
Um,
many do you think still stand in opposition? Because it sounds like opposition's been crumbling over the past 24 hours.
I think I saw 5 names that said they had no intention of voting for him.
Yeah, Don Bacon is a hard no, which plays well in his Biden +6 seat.
Yeah, I mean it's, you know, if it was just him without him, it would be fine. But not him.
Yeah.
We have a bad record with people with scandals such as his, and we do not need one more name on that list.
We really don't. I mean, it just part of me wonders like if Joe Jordan actually becomes Speaker of the House, I think, you know, I think the backlash next year could be potentially quite great unless things
I don't think
absolutely.
anybody will care. Nobody ever. Pelosi. It's always been notable that Pelosi was unpopular easy target. Nobody cares.
Yeah. I mean, how many pieces of legislation has Jim Jordan actually gotten passed? I don't think
None.
any.
I mean, that's not something that's unusual though.
Yeah. By the way, it's funny to me that Matt Gaetz finally got a bill passed this year.
Do any bills get passed?
Well, his bill that was removing Speaker McCarthy.
I think that's a resolution, but I think it obviously isn't the other side's responsibility to keep our people in, but I don't think you get to criticize the chaos when it's your votes that did it.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that it is exceptionally offensive and why I would do all I can to undermine them for people to say, don't make deals with the other side and then vote with the other side.
Yeah. Because honestly, I mean, but I think like the most likely outcome at this point is you find 5 Republicans who are willing to make a coalition government.
I don't think a coalition will ever happen. They'll honestly just choosing McHenry is probably the best choice. That would be my preference. He's a good man.
Yeah,
Um, who I
probably
think,
the it's probably the option of least resistance at this point.
yeah, and just, you know, but it's just it's people who have absolutely no idea what they're doing, just trying to get on TV. I mean, the worst offender is the congressman or the congresswoman from South Carolina.
Oh,
Like,
Nancy Mace. Oh,
Jesus
the Scarlet
Christ, she
Letter.
manages to make every one of those clowns look like a reasonable person.
Yeah. Um, just it's you think Nancy Mace in particular, or is there like somehow Marjorie Taylor Greene looks more reasonable than her? That like that's an accomplishment.
It is because I mean, even I don't even think Green voted for the motion in the beginning.
Yeah.
Um, but Mace is just so obviously a person with no actual beliefs. She's purely there to get on TV.
She's the Republican Kirsten Sinema.
I mean, even she defected out of a general. I don't know if she has particularly cohesive ideas, but she does have some ideas. Mace just seems to jump around on a daily basis. First, she's mad about spending, then she's mad about abortion, then she's siding with, really anti-abortion. It's just there's nothing there, you know, which is funny because she was the reasonable choice in the primary last time.
Yeah, no, that was that to me is crazy. Like imagine now making Katie Arrington look like the reasonable woman in the room.
Yeah, it's bad. What is this? It's like as I said, she is by far the worst.
Yeah. So looks like Don Bacon is still opposed. Um, what no to me like the one of the more interesting holdouts. I don't know if he's folded yet, but Ken Buck,
Oh,
who
he's been
based
doing this too long to fold. He's somebody who just doesn't care. Um, and is one of the sort of original, fire breathing types.
yeah
Um, and so he's well experienced with just burning it all to the ground, which seems to be well versed in now.
yeah for sure. Just yeah, the news has like been moving like there are times when the news moves at such a fast pace it's hard to keep track of everything, and I think it's like one of these times is like right now.
Well, at least every discrete category isn't terribly overwhelmed.
Yeah. um I mean, but if Jim Jordan can't get the votes, like I mean he obviously can't get the votes, but it sounds like nobody can.
I mean, as I said, we'll go. Honestly, I've been kind of surprised. Say what you want about Jordan, but he has at least somewhat lowered the gap. Certainly much less. Scalise would have been a good choice, but you know,
Yeah. I mean, Scalise seemed like the natural choice.
yeah. But the usual suspects again have better things to do. So,
Yeah. Um, Honestly, I mean, I always found it interesting that like the United States is now ready to send troops to Israel, because I always felt that Israel until now never wanted foreign troops to help them.
Well, I don't know how many troops they'll be accepting, but I'm sure the aircraft will be useful.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I encourage you, by the way, to watch that interview. I'm gonna plug the interview and encourage everybody to watch it. It's it's helpful if you're feeling grief. So just put that plug in right now. Prompt will appear to watch the video. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of my debut today.
That's good. I'll have to put that on my list.
Okay. Um, so anything else happening that we should talk about?
Well, I mean, the government in the UK continues to flare around. No clue what planet they're on. Argentina is about to be a really funny place in about a week.
All right. Um,
Um,
who's the favorite right now in that election?
the Libertarian.
Oh, the Libertarians actually going to pull this out?
He'll probably get first. It's just a question of who his opponent will be. He almost certainly won't get enough to avoid a runoff.
Yeah.
It's honestly, both results are going to be kind of funny because if he gets into a fight with the left, he's going to win easily. But if he gets into a fight with the other right-wing candidate, the left is going to either not vote or have to make a choice, and it's going to be really funny to watch which one they make.
Yeah. Oh, you mean Patricia Bullock?
I don't remember which side she's on, but
I thought she was the right-wing candidate.
oh, I think it's a guy, isn't it?
Really? Okay, let me look this up.
About to Argentina. Oh no, you're right. No, she is. Huh.
Yeah. No, never mind. It's Bullrich.
Close enough.
Yeah. So there's FR that I'm guessing that's the Peronists. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Sergio Massa. And then there's Javier Milei.
He's
Um,
I would probably vote for the center right candidate.
yeah.
But I do think it's about the only instance in which the libertarians are correct.
Yeah. So according to this, it looks like if the current polls are correct, or the latest update, it looks like it would be between the Peronists and that libertarian guy.
I mean, that's probably, but the polls are trash.
Yeah, okay. Polls are trash.
They got
Uh,
the polls were terrible in the primary. They underestimated the libertarian by like more than 10 points.
right. So yeah, no, I'd probably support the center right, but I think Millet actually has a chance to pull this off. Or so you think if it's Millet versus the Peronists that Millet is gonna win?
Oh, easily. It won't even be close.
Yeah, the Peronists are like really unpopular right now. I think
Oh yeah.
they 2 years ago they lost control of the Senate, I think for the first time like in a long time.
Oh yeah. And they're gonna get destroyed, I would assume, in the congressional elections.
Yeah. Yeah, this would if that holds, it would, aside from what happened, this would be like the first right-wing victory in Latin America, I think, in years.
Well, I mean, Chile.
Chile does not have a right-wing government.
No, but we won the Constitutional Convention
True. Um,
by a
which is,
lot.
I mean, it's amazing to me, by the way, that Chile could elect Boric by the margin he won, and then defeat that referendum by like the margin that it lost by.
Well, I
You know,
think they underestimated just how many stupid ideas the usual suspects would toss in.
but
I mean,
Boric,
even by their own standards, they did a stupid job.
yeah, but Boric weakened himself by tying himself to that thing. Like that was a
Well, he had
big
to. It was
self own.
his baby.
Yeah, true. Um, honestly, I think we should pause here. I think we should resume this.
Should be
What do you
fine,
think?
I think. did you say you have to go?
I probably have to go in a little bit. Yeah. All right. So yeah, no. We're gonna keep an eye on stuff that's going on in the world. I'm glad to be back with the podcast. CA Conservative, thanks for coming on.
Of course.